Okay, good morning. So we're working through Shin Chof Ches, and we're up to Seif Ches. Mi she'achazoi dom, makizin oisei afilu helech al raglov, afilu b'yom harishon. So someone who is overcome with blood, what exactly does that mean? So interestingly, if you look in note 25, he says in the first paragraph there, v'gedei achazoi dam, da'as hagonim nissen karelitz, shezeh ma shekor bizmanenu lachatz dam. He's got blood pressure, high blood pressure. Either very high blood pressure or low pressure. So this is quite a serious problem, and therefore the Mechaber says Misha Ochzadam, which Nissim Karadis understands to be he's got blood pressure. It's usually the very high or very low blood pressure. Makizin Oisa, you can let blood for him. Even if the person is up and about, it's the first day of this illness. You're allowed to do it. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Kotan Chafalov, Afilu Adei Yisrael, even through a Jewish person doing it to let the blood, the sakantu is dangerous for him. V'machozu dam b'mixas, if it's more minor, or minka shehurak mechush ba'alma, the also. So if it's it's less of a blood pressure problem, then it would be then you can't be mechal Shabbos for him. Okay, Tess. Someone who's got problems with his eyes, or one eye, and there's some sort of liquid coming out of the eye, it's tearing and it's because of the pain, or blood is coming out of the eye, there's some sort of mucus coming out, Pirush Techilas Chayli, this is the beginning of some sorts of illness. Mechal Lovis HaShabbos. Then you're allowed to Mechal Shabbos. So we take eye problems very seriously. We'll come to it. Let's do the Mishnah first. So do you remember we said we've said a couple of times now, but there are 5 categories. Pikuach nefesh you got to be mechal Shabbos, and hazor is harizah meshubach, etc., etc. The next category is sakonis eva, where there's a loss of a limb but not loss of life. There, for a non-Jewish person can do a deraisa, no question, and a Yisrael can do a drabonon. And then the third category is a chaylish she'ein by sakona. It's not life-threatening, but he's unwell. He's got to be in bed, or he's feeling his whole body is nechlesh kol gufay. And there, a Yisrael, an any Yehudi can do a deraisa. You can tell the nurse, you can tell someone to do even a deraisa, and then you've got mixas chayli, which you get a non-Jewish person to do a drabon, and then you get michush. Then you've got michush ba'alma, just sort of a mild headache where you can't do anything, but you can have Michael Brim, you can have a hot chicken soup or something like that. So here, this is category number 2. So he says, "Ve'af al gav the mishum sakonas eva in mechal b'sideraisa l'kula alma." You can't do a deraisa when it's sakonas eva or chudlekama on sifyud zayin. Ayin shani. When it comes to eyes, we take it more seriously. The shruki de'ena b'libatalya v'ika sakonas nefesh. There's a connection between eye disease and heart failure. I remember once years ago, the Gemara speaks about this. I remember once asking a doctor, and he said there was some sort of he's come across this as well. Anyway, you got to be careful with eyes. Chaf gimel, b'Gemara mashma duadin kitcha, that this is true as well with some sort of fever. V'chein isa b'Rambam v'cholbay. Let's just finish off, and then we'll do footnote 25 or 26. Tchilas chayli. V'chein be'emtza hamachla. Aval b'soif chayli, when the infection is sort of weaning off and it's almost finished. Shekva tosh machloso, the hard parts of it has now passed. Leka sakanta alidei simon halalu. Then we're not worried about these sort of symptoms. V'kolshken sherot zelasas refuah kadei lahagbir be'enov. You just want to improve your eyesight and things like that, then you can't be mechal Shabbos. Now, the question is conjunctivitis, so the pink eye. Yeah, sometimes you get a red eye. What can you do for that on Shabbos? So he says in 26 the following: "For dalekes einayim chazoka," which is dalekes einayim is pink eyes, conjunctivitis. Das agon nisen karelitz sheyesh b'chashash pikuach nefesh umechal noves Shabbos. So I looked in Rav Ribiat, and Rav Ribiat, the Grey Sefer, the 4-volume Grey Sefer, he says that conjunctivitis, it depends. If it's mild, you just got a bit of an irritation, then that's not you can't take medication for that. But if it's conjunctivitis, it's more serious, your eyes are pink, then you're allowed to take medication for that. That's got a din of a chodesh ein b'sakona, he says.
And that's if people put, let's say, a hot tea bag or things like that, because this goes into the...
Yeah, people do that, don't they? So it depends. If it's more serious conjunctivitis, then yes, then it's a chodesh ein b'sakona, and you can take medication. And anything which is mild, you've got a bit of eye irritation, or it's just a bit sore or something, then probably not. Yeah, that's the difficulty. We know the 5 categories. What exactly each illness is, how it fits into each category. That's the issue over here. Okay, Yud. Kol chayli sheharofim omrim shu sakana. The doctors say this is a danger. Afal pisha hu al habasa mebachutz. Even though it's an external wound or something. Mechalin lovas Shabbos. The doctors are saying this is serious. You got to take it seriously. You're allowed to mechal Shabbos. V'im roife echad oimet tzarich. You've got a dispute amongst the 2 medical advisors. One says it's dangerous, one says it's not. We are on the side of caution, mechalin, and you're mechal Shabbos. You don't really need the view of a medical expert. The kol bnei adam chashuvim mumchim k'tzas v'soving l'fashis lahakel. People know their own situation. They know if they're unwell, and we rely on that. And therefore, if a person himself, even without medical expert sort of assessment, he himself says this is serious, then we say sofing the fashis lahakel, and we believe him. V'yeshayim dafki Yisraelim, and that's true only if the mumcha, the person who has medical expertise, is the Yisrael. But a non-Jewish person who's not a doctor, who's not medically trained, then we don't give them the same level as expertise. And somebody who's forcing you to do an avera, so someone is forcing another person to do an avera, eat this treif or something. You're not mechal Shabbos to save the person from doing that avera. Okay, we'll see more details in a minute because this is a minefield. This whole area, you'll see there's lots of areas, lots of debates here. Okay, Chaf Hey. So the Reifim are saying that it's a sakana, even if it's an external thing, then you've got to take that into consideration. You've got to be choshish for it. It says Mishnah Berurah Chaf Hey, Afilu Eini Yehudi. Because at the end of the day he is a doctor and he has expertise, and therefore we take into consideration what he says. The Chayla says, I need this medication, and the Reifa says, I don't need it. Amazing. You listen to the Chayla, even though the doctor says no, you're fine, you're okay. If the person feels otherwise, then you take on board what the person feels. Unless the doctor says you could take that medication, but this is very detrimental to you. So otherwise, but apart from that, you listen to the chayla. But if the guy says it's dangerous for you, then you listen to the doctor. Okay, so one doctor says do this, and one doctor says don't do this. It's okay. You listen to the doctor, softening the fashis lahakel. She'ein tzarich mumcha. And there are those who say you don't need medical advice as well, that a person himself is believed he has nemonas because softening the fashis lahakel, he knows his own situation. Says Mishnah Berurah Chaf Zayin, when we call makom davka, k'sheyem shemakir ba'isa chayli. Where the person says, I'm familiar with this and this is serious. But and he's not believed to contradict the mumcha afilu lahaka. But if he's not familiar with this chayla, he could be a hypochondriac or something like that. But if he knows about this illness, then we listen to him. And then the Ramah says, Dafki Yisrael. This is still going on the Machaba. V'yesh mishoyim she'ein tzarich mumcha. D'chol bnei adam chashuvim mumchim. Says the Mishnah Berurah Chaf Ches. Hainu afilu lemaka she'ein shel chalal. Even if it's not an internal wound. Or mikol makom im ef shelases al yedei ein Yehudi tov yoser k'mei shebi'arti v'be'alacha. It's better if you can to get a non-Jewish person to do the Chilul Shabbos rather than you do it yourself.
What category are we talking about? One.
I think one. That even category number one, that for pikuach nefesh, to assess whether this pikuach nefesh, it could be even without medical expertise, the Yisrael himself, the Chayil himself, could say this is pikuach nefesh. Someone just told me now that he should have a full name of this person. He was in Bournemouth, he was unwell, he felt his own chest pains or whatever. You don't need medical intervention. You take yourself off to the doctor, the hospital. Dafki Yisraelim. So the Ramah adds that when do we say that that the person has got medical expertise and we take on board what he says, that's Dafka Yisrael. Since he's Mitzuva on Shabbos, and he tells you you've got to be Mechal Shabbos, you take on board what he says. Now, if you look at 32, where is this? 32, yeah. Now, what about a doctor who is not religious? He doesn't keep Torah mitzvahs. So here's something very interesting. 32. When it comes to Yom Kippur, he himself doesn't fast and is advising you whether this is dangerous. It's questionable whether I can rely on him because he doesn't know the Chomer Hadava of Shabbos of Yom Kippur. And therefore the Pesach has got to just see, he's got to take it into consideration and see, is this person being flippant with halacha, or is it just, is he giving you genuine medical advice? Or be a Hagon Rabbi Yashiv. So then he brings Rabbi Yashiv. Ideally, you should go to a doctor who is Yirei Shamayim. If you didn't, you can't ignore what the doctor said, even though he's not Shema Torah. If you've got a doctor who is not Shema Shabbos, it is at least enough to become a sofik of Pikuach Nefesh. And if the fellow is suggesting to you that this is a shayla of Pikuach Nefesh, even though it's not Shema Torah, then it's definitely a sofik. So to ideally go to a doctor who is Yirei Shamayim, and if not, then we can take on board what he says, but it depends very much on how the posek would see it. Okay, let's carry on. Steve Cotton Lamed. Avil Stam, what was this going on? This is the Ramah. Avil Stam Einem Yehudim She'enem Reifim Lo Machzik Nesem Bekim. But a regular non-Jewish person who has not got any medical training, then we don't give him the status of a Boki, and we don't really take on board his medical contribution to this situation. Avil Stam V'chenik, and that is how we paskin, says the Mishnah Berurah. And then lastly we said that Misha writes him la'onsa sheyava avera gedola, that a person is forcing someone to do an avera, you're not mechal Shabbos k'dei lahatzil that person. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sivkat and Lamed Aleph, de'ein omrim lo la'adam chatei b'shvil sheyizka chavercha, the big sugya, that we don't say to a person, you do an avera in order that your friends will be exempt from doing it. Achim hakfiyah. However, if the kfir, the forcing over here, has to do with the gimel averis chamuras, with the big three, i.e., averis gilulin gilarayas shvichas damim, those be the gimel averis chamuras, v'hu meshayah she'anenes yimser atzon lemisa b'shvil zeh, and you see that the person is, let's say he's saying, kill this person or I'm going to kill you. And you know that the person is going to be omid on that, and therefore he'll submit to being killed rather than doing this aveira. In that situation, then you could be mechal Shabbos to avoid the death of this person. Yeah. So in other words, so what have we said? We've said, the Ramah says that if you see a person being forced to do an aveira, for example, eat this treif, you are allowed to mechal Shabbos to prevent that. So what does that mean? That you can, you can do something to distract him, or you can drive a car to quickly get this fellow away. You can be mechal Shabbos. So you ain't mechal Shabbos. If it's a regular avera, you can't be mechal Shabbos to prevent another person from doing an avera. If, however, the avera in question is one of the gimel averas chamuras, where the person really has got to give up his life, and you are confident this fellow is about to give up his life, then you can be mechal Shabbos. Seder? Yeah, clear? Okay. Good. That is Sif Yud. Okay, Yud Aleph. So this is category number 3. So the category number 3 is that you can tell a non-Jewish person to do a deraisa. Sorry, this is category number 1. This is category number 1, Pikuach Nefesh. So Yish Sakona means Sakonis Nefashas. She'omdu b'yam HaShabbos she'sorach lasas refu yadua she'yesh ba melachas chil Shabbos, and the intervention involves chil Shabbos, but it has 8 days. Ein oimrim namtim at halayla v'nimsa sh'nechalo v'ele Shabbos achas. Yeah, let's say the doctor comes on Shabbos and says, listen, he needs help, and it's an 8-day course. So you could say to yourself, well, listen, if I wait till tonight, I'll only be mechal Shabbos next week, but I don't have to do 2 Shabboses. We don't say that. Eliyasu miyad, you start the medical intervention straight away. Afal pi shemechal lov shtei Shabboses, even though it means you're going to end up violating 2 Shabboses today and next week. Okay, that's halacha number 1. And then ulachabes haneh b'shvil sheyishan, and to extinguish a candle for a choyle who is sleeping, who wants to sleep. Ayin le'el siman reish ayin ches. Okay, so let's just quickly look back in Reish Ayin Ches. It's many pages back, but I'll read it for you if you want. It just says over there in Reish Ayin Ches, Mutar lechabes haneh b'shvil sheyishan ha'choyle sheyesh b'sakona. You're allowed to turn off a light, to extinguish a light for a choyle sheyesh b'sakona. Extinguishing a light, the Mechaber explains, or the Mishabur explains, is a melach she'ein tzricha legufa, and therefore is likely to be a drabonon. It's not that I need this light extinguished. It's just that it's melach she'ein. I don't need the coal, whatever that I'm making. That's a normal classic example. So it's melach she'ein tzricha legufa.
Somebody else can do it for you?
Yeah, the Yisrael can walk into the room and can be mechaber the ner for this choyle. And it's a choyle sheyesh b'sakona we're talking about. Now I just read you the first lines of the Mishnah Berurah there. Davka b'she'iyef shelo hitzi ha'choyle l'makom acher. When is this true? When there's no alternative bedroom, that I can't take the choyle to a different place. I can't turn off the light in another way without doing malacha. Etc. Okay, so Bekitza, you're allowed to extinguish a light for a choyle sheyesh b'sakona. Yeah. Okay. Back to the Mishnah Berurah on Yud Aleph. So on this 8-day course, we don't say wait till Motzei Shabbos and then you'll only be mechal 1 Shabbos. And then he says the Mishnah Berurah, interesting, in Lamed Beis, Ve'ein stira mizeh lahod soif Sif Daled, and this is not a contradiction to what we said in the end of Sif Daled. The Hosam halumayir she'edei makish alidei hamtanosa ad erev lo yagia shum reus lachile ma she'en kein kan hacha. There we said that you should delay. So when can you delay, when can you not delay? So it depends on the situation. If there's going to be a sakana, there's a deterioration in his health, then you don't delay and you start the medical intervention today. But if delaying until Motzei Shabbos is not such a big deal, then of course you try and do that. Okay, let's just do one more seif. Yud Beis. Now this is a very interesting area. Here the halacha is talking about, is it better to get a child to be Mechal Shabbos? Should you do it? For example, if there's a person collapses in shul, who should be the one to go make the phone call to Hatzalah? Should you get the child to do it? Should you go into Ezra's Noshim to do it? To get the ladies to do it? We'll see what's the svara for that. Should the Rav be the one to do it to demonstrate that actually you're allowed to Mechal Shabbos? So that's what this sif is talking about. So we're talking about category number 1, i.e. that this is possible sakonas nefashos, a person collapses, it's a suspected heart attack or something like that. Mishtadlin shelo lasas alidei ein Yehudim uktanim b'noshim. We dafka don't do it through either a non-Jewish person, a cotton, or women. And alidei Yisrael gedolim b'nei das. We dafka want to use Yisrael gedolim and b'nei das. Okay, let's just do the Mishnah till that. Shelo lasos hatam kosav arosh. What's the svar for all this? Mishum de zimnin de lesnu, because sometimes you won't find a cotton in any Yehudi or Noshim. The imkain la'adudi basra, and therefore the temptation or the error will be to run after, find a nearby child or a non-Jewish person, and that will cause a delay which could be dangerous. Now that svara is true for ketanim and enim yudim, because there a cotton is not a chil, is not mechuyev, and enim yehudi maybe is of course better. I mean, the chil Shabbos to be through the enim yehudi than through the Jewish person. But what about noshim? Why would I think to go to the Ezra's noshim to be mechal Shabbos? That's a noshim ikatamacha. There's a different reason. Shema Yomru Shaloi Nitn Shabbos Litches Af Pikuach Nefesh Ulekach Moisinos Alohem. Because maybe a person will think that Shabbos is there's no pikuach nefesh, and therefore we'll go and ask the ladies to do it, and we want to demonstrate that no, you should be mechal Shabbos. Again, there'll be a delay in the sakana. Or maybe the concern is that you shouldn't go to a woman because maybe she'll she'll take this for a situation, a precedent for other situations, and she'll mechal Shabbos in future. So therefore, it's better to use a man, a Yisrael Gedolim of Bnei Das, and therefore that's what the Mechaber says. Mishtadlin shelo lasas in Yudiv Ktanim Noshim. It's better not to use a non-Jewish person, a woman or a cotton, because it might come to problems in the future. Better you do it yourself. El alidei, and then says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Kotan Lamadalad uchashiyeshon b'mayim edzeh chachomim, and if there's a Talmud Chacham there, mitzvah lechatchila lasos chil alideihem. You should get the Talmud Chacham to call. I know one Rav. I was once in a certain shul, and the Rav had to call Atzola. He was the one who ran to the phone to do it, and that's mamish this halacha because he wants to show everybody that this is what you got to do. V'da. This is where we're talking about, everyone's there in the shul or in the home or wherever it is. Then you just got to do it quickly. And therefore, if there are women there, then don't start running around. It's better not to use a cotton, a woman, a Yehudi. Just get it done quickly. Okay, now that's the Mechaber. The Ramah then says, if there is no delay involved, and you can do a shinui, you can dial with your knuckles or something like that. Then do a shinui. And if you can get a non-Jewish person without any delay, then you get the non-Jewish person to do it. That is the minhag. But if there is any concern whatsoever of delay by getting a non-Jewish person, then you do it yourself without a shinui, without any a non-Jewish person doing it. It says the Mishnah Berurah Lamed Hey below ichal shinui to kol kama denucha lasos beheta lo yishavki hateir v'nasa be'isa. Because if you can do it with a shinui, then of course there's no delay involved. Of course that is better. V'nira du adinim al dei shinui misacha adav ma'at. And so too, if doing it with a shinui is going to delay it whatsoever, which knuckle shall I use or something like that, then you of course do it quickly and normally. Rak de'ena chayli bahol, because just that he won't get confused. Nami misachrim ma'at, because he'll get all confused, start thinking in lomdas, what did he say in dirshushe, and just do it. Kadei las ladei shinui de'ein ela is drabonim, because a shin of course would reduce it to drabonim. Al de'ein Yehudi v'adin al de'ein ketanim. Yeah, if you can, without delay, you can get a cotton to do it as well. It's also preferred. V'chein nagim v'taz kosam, and the Taz writes, the lav minag v'sikin hu. Even if there's no delay issues, it's better for the Israel to do it because he'll be quicker to do things. So just to summarize, that in a situation of who do we get to Mechal Shabbos in an emergency, although there are svaras, different ways. Of course, if there's any time delay, you just do it yourself quickly. If there are Talmud Chacham around, the Rav is around, he should do it to demonstrate that it's allowed to do. But the Mechaber, if there's no time issue, then ideally, K'shemechal and Shabbos, we try not to use Einim Yehudim K'tanim and Noshim, because the concern is the next time we will dafka try and use them in a situation where there may be a delay, and that's a problem. But if there's no delay, then we try not to use Einim Yehudim K'tanim and Noshim, and it should be a man and a ben das, a godel. And the Ramah says that if you can use a shinui without any time delay problems, then you should try and do that, or an Einim Yehudi, that of course would be preferred, or a cotton. Say that we should all be well in Mitzvah Hashem.